Oh my god, you guys, I was like right in the middle of filming my introduction and my bracelet just like snapped. See, it is in pieces all over the floor, so yeah, this video is off to a great start. Hey guys, it's Madison Estes. Welcome back to my channel. I'm a writer, freelance editor, and I'm currently the editor of Roadkill 6, Texas Horror by Texas Writers. I am currently editing Cemetery Days by Patrick C. Harrison III. I'm about 2 pages into it, so not very into it at all. It's been a chaotic morning a little bit. Nothing in particular, except for, I will say, my bracelet just deciding to randomly break. I wasn't even doing anything. It wasn't like I got hooked on anything. It literally, I looked down and I just saw beads in my lap and on the floor, and I was like, okay, so I guess that's goodbye. This story, I know you're gonna hear this a lot from me, but this story is one of my favorites in the anthology. Originally, I wanted this to be the last story in the anthology, although after talking to E.R. Bills, I'm thinking it's probably gonna be the second or third instead. He actually wanted to open this anthology with this story, but I was like, it is 8,000 words, which is pretty long. I don't think I've ever read an anthology where the opening story was 8,000 words. It's very literary, and it's almost as much a coming-of-age story as it is a horror story. And I feel like it's an amazing story, and I'm so glad that it's in this collection. And honestly, this, of all the stories in the anthology, this was the only one that I was like, oh man, like, I don't know if the publisher and E.R. Bills is going to want this story. My next thought was, you know what? If they don't like it, then that's just one story in the anthology. Hopefully they'll like all the other ones. But I wasn't sure, because even though it's a really good story, I could just hear in my mind, well, is it a horror story? And I'm like, yes, it is. It's got, you know, violence against children, which, I mean, that's pretty horrifying. It's got, you know, a monster in it, and it's got, you know, gun violence in it. To me, it's definitely a horror story, but it is very much a literary coming-of-age story as well. And there's nothing that says that those two things can't exist at the same time. But I do feel like this is the kind of story where if you read it and this was the opening story, you would expect the rest of the stories to kind of carry that same sort of literary element that not all of them have. Because a lot of these stories are like genre horror stories. So I wanted the opening story to, first of all, be shorter, and to, second of all, you know, convey the theme that most of the stories are going to have. I was tied between Caro Comes Home and this story as the finale, and although I still think this would make a really good finale, I am glad that we're moving it closer to the front of the anthology. So I'm going to go ahead and get started editing this story. I can already tell you ahead of time, I'm pretty sure everything I'm going to be doing is just proofreading. Maybe a few line edits, some sentence flow things, but I remember when I read this story, I was just blown away. I'm going to try to go through it with, you know, the mindset of, is there anything big I could change? Not big, but, you know, like, is there any story elements I could add, or, you know, there's something that could be taken out, but no. I already know it's just going to be line edits and proofreading. Okay, so I just finished editing Cemetery Days. It actually went really quickly because, like I said, most of it was proofreading and there wasn't that much to correct. I cut a few lines that, you know, not full lines, but like parts of lines. Just really, really minimal editing to this story. I think the only suggestion I made was cutting a scene break, and then there was one part where one of the characters said something and I was like, I think the other character should respond before you end this scene. That was it. Like like almost no editing really. It's just proofreading mostly. It was a very polished story. I guess I could talk about it a little bit more, but for the most part, it's just about this girl who has a crush on this guy whenever they were kids, and they go off and have an adventure, and I'm not gonna say any more than that, but what appealed to me about the story is that It's a story about a girl reflecting on her youth and, you know, this adventure they had, this very scary adventure. And to me, what I love about this story is the fact that the guy character in this story, he ends up, I don't want to give away spoilers. I'm walking a very fine line here. Okay, he ends up doing something heroic, I'll just say that. It seems like, you know, looking back on his life, he may not have done a lot of things he was proud of in his life, but he had this one moment in his childhood where he got to be the hero. And, you know, he ends up seeing later on, years later, you know, the consequences of this good thing that he did, and, you know, how meaningful that was to him. And like I said, all the things that I love about this story have nothing to do with the horror elements in it. I don't think anyone's gonna read this story and be like, oh man, that was chilling, that was terrifying. Like, they're gonna read this story and want to cry. That's how I felt. So that's another reason why I was like, this can't be the opener, because first of all, I already know which story is going to be the opener. It's going to be a great opener. It's very terrifying, very creepy story. This one makes me want to cry, so it's not really sad until the end, and even then it's not like tearjerker sad. I mean, it kind of makes you want to cry, but like in a sweet way. It's a very sweet, sentimental story, and I know now you're thinking, what is a sweet, sentimental story doing in this anthology? Well, you know, I wanted a variety of horror stories, so we've got like the bizarro weird, like with We're All Weeds and the doll story. We've got just straight up body horror, like The Teeth, and then this story is, and also I would say Caro Comes Home, but even more so this story, you have like that heartfelt horror. Which is, you know, something that really appeals to me. Thinking in particular, like, you know, Mike Flanagan's The Haunting of Hill House is something that I would consider like heartfelt horror, which kind of falls in line with this story. Alright, so that's all I'm gonna say for today. I'm gonna go ahead and end this vlog now. And I don't know what I'm gonna edit tomorrow. Don't even know if I'm going to be editing tomorrow, honestly. I always feel terrible whenever I'm like, hey guys, I'll film this tomorrow, and then I never do, so I'm making no promises. Maybe you'll see me tomorrow, maybe you won't. Okay, bye. Hey guys, guess what? It's actually the next day. Oh, I'm filming 2 days in a row. I just finished editing Bloodlines and Borders by Jeremy Hepler. I don't know if I'm actually going to end up putting footage of me editing this in the video, because I'm pretty sure it's just going to be me staring at a screen because there was hardly anything to edit in this. It's a very polished story. There's maybe a few parts where I like did some things that weren't technically things I had to change, but like things like, you know, I wanted to keep the Chicago style ellipses throughout the entire manuscript, so, you know, I added spaces between the ellipses, things like that, things that really, you know, no one's gonna notice but me. But yeah, so very quick edit. The story is about a pregnant woman and her baby daddy tries to commit suicide, and then the family comes after her, and it's a very uncomfortable horror story. I think that any story that puts a pregnant woman in danger, you know, it's gonna be, I think it adds a whole extra level of horror to it, and I think it's going to be an uncomfortable story for some people, but ultimately I think it's a very satisfying story that a lot of people are going to like. So I don't know if I'm going to be editing tomorrow. I might take a break tomorrow and then start editing the next day, and I don't know what I'm going to edit. I'm just going to open up the manuscript folder that has all the stories and just close my eyes and pick one. I think that sounds like fun. I'm going to do that. Okay, bye. So I just finished editing Winter's Breath by Al Hagen. It's so weird. So it's about sentient snow, and I should just leave it at that, honestly. Like either you're on board with that or you're not. Like there's two types of people that are gonna get into the story. There are people that are like, what the heck? How did this get accepted? And they're just gonna skip the story. And then there's people that are gonna be like, oh heck yeah. Something weird, something I've never seen before, I'm on board. That's how I feel, because I've read a lot of, you know, short story anthologies and magazines, and I've read a whole lot of short horror stories, never seen one about sentient snow. I got really excited. For editing this story did have more edits than most of the other stories in this anthology, just in terms of sentence flow. That's it. Like, it was mostly just, you know, cutting the excess words, making the sentences a little bit tighter, a little bit more concise. And then there was one part where I added like 3 or 4 sentences near the climax just to kind of break up that scene. The characters are hiding from the snow and they're trying to like literally create a barricade to protect themselves from it, and there's like a time jump in the climax, and so I just added a few sentences just to kind of transition that scene a little bit better. But other than that, you know, it's pretty much, the story was weird from the beginning. I didn't touch any of the story elements. It was weird when I got it. It's definitely one of the weirder stories in this collection. I mean, and that's saying something. It's got some weird stories in it, like plant horror, insect lady horror, cursed sandstorms. My own story's got like a haunted car with like possession, time travel. It's just a weird collection to begin with. So for me to say it's one of the weirder stories in the collection, like it's quite a compliment to the strangeness of the story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. On this channel, I post book reviews, writing advice, horror commentary, and vlogs. And be sure to check out Roadkill 6 Texas Horror by Texas Writers, coming soon. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you later. So my bracelet just broke. That was fun. Anyways, welcome back to my channel. Allergies. Today I am editing Bloodlines and wait, which one comes first? Is it Bloodlines and Borders or Borders and Bloodlines? Bloodlines and Borders, okay. Hey guys, today I am editing Alright, my shirt's being weird. Anyways, by Jeremy Hepler. Hepler? Hepler, okay. I don't know how to say names. I'm not great with names. Okay.